Hi fellow bibliophiles, and welcome back to Blatantly Bookish. Today I'm going to talk to you about all the books I read in the month of September. I hope you guys had a fantastic reading month this September, and I look forward to hearing all of the wonderful books you guys read, either on your own channels or hopefully in the comments down below. September was a pretty good reading month for me. I read 6.5 books, and yes, I do say a half. What is half a book? It is, I read half a book, and I don't plan on reading more of that book. And yeah, I DNF'd a book this month, which is pretty rare for me, and it is not going to be a very popular opinion on which book I DNF'd, so more on that later. But first, I'll talk about the books I did finish. The first book I finished this month was Jane Austen, The Secret Radical by Helena Kelly. It's part biography, part historical fiction, part literary criticism, and it's all about Jane Austen and her works. And I go on for almost 20 minutes ranting about it and about Jane Austen in another video that I'll link for you up above or down below if you're interested in watching it. Then I read Agatha Christie's The ABC Murders in honor of Agatha Christie's birthday, which was September 15th. Guinness World Records lists Agatha Christie as the best-selling novelist of all time, and her estate claims that she is third in the world's most widely published books, with Shakespeare and the Bible coming up as the first two. I don't know if that's all true, but she definitely is the queen of mystery, as my book says. She came up with memorable and lovable detective figures like Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple. The ABC Murders is a Hercule Poirot mystery about a serial killer named ABC, or those are his initials at least, who works his way through the alphabet on a murderous spree. A is for Mrs. Asher in Andover, B is for Betty Barnard in Bexhill, and C is for Sir Carmichael Clark in Churston, and it goes on from there. The book sheds insight into psychological profiling for serial killers and the tropes of the murder mystery genre as a whole. I just want to read you one of my favorite parts from it. Sooner or later, by reason of your association with one another, something will come to light, will take on a significance as yet undreamed of. It is like the jigsaw puzzle. Each of you may have a piece, apparently without meaning, but which, when reunited, may show a definite portion of the picture as a whole. Words, said Megan Barnard. Eh? Poirot looked at her inquiringly. What you've been saying, it's just words. It doesn't mean anything. She spoke with that kind of desperate intensity that I had come to associate with her personality. Words, mademoiselle, are only the outer clothing of ideas. Love that line. I love that last line so much. In the end, of course, Poirot does piece together this mystery in a way that I would have never guessed. That being said, I am quite gullible when it comes to books and TV shows and movies, and I pretty much never guess what's going to happen. So, yes. But all in all, Agatha Christie did not disappoint. Happy birthday, Agatha. I also read the Immortal series by Tamora Pierce. So that is this whole series here. It's the second series in the Tortall universe, and it's comprised of these books, the first one being Wild Magic, the second one is Wolf Speaker, the third one is Emperor Mage, and the fourth, The Realms of the Gods. So I read the first series, The Lioness Quartet, a while ago on a sleepover. I'll link my video on those for you up above or down below, but in this second series, it was really just as wonderful as the first. I don't know how Tamora Pierce's work has escaped my childhood of reading, but her books give me a little taste of that experience of reading that I had when I was younger, where I would just devour books whole in one or two sittings, and when the world and the characters began to permeate my everyday life. I have a feeling, though, that I would have liked the main character and the premise of these books more when I was younger. Verladane Sarastri, aka Dane, in the book, is an orphan who discovers that she has a very specific type of magic called wild magic, which allows her to communicate with animals, but it also allows her to sense immortal creatures who've been imprisoned in the divine realms for the past 400 years. This series follows Dane's journey in learning about herself and her magic, and dealing with the immortal's breach into the mortal realm. Now, if you watch my channel regularly, you'll probably be absolutely shocked that I enjoyed something like this, because I usually don't read fantasy or YA. I find that the contemporary YA I've tried to read has a way of being trite or overly focused on romance. These books, however, remind me more of what I read as a child. They are for children, no doubt, but this series addresses issues of environmentalism, what it means to be human, how to deal with people whose customs are very different from your own, and whose values you fundamentally disagree with. And the last book even gave me a bit of an existential crisis. It's titled The Realms of the Gods. And I think that the way Tamora Pierce sets up this realm of the gods leads to questions like, what happens when we die? And is there something out there, a god, gods, spirits, etc.? It discusses immortality, free will, and I mean, yes, this is a children's book, so it only skims the surface of these topics, but as an adult, it really got me thinking about these types of things. And one of the beautiful things about reading literature is the way it expands your mind and gets you to think about the nuances of humanity in really interesting ways. That being said, I preferred the main character from the first series, the Lioness Quartet, or Alana is the name of that character. Even though she was in these books, she was not prominent in them and you didn't really hear her point of view. I felt that Dane was kind of flat as a character, but that the series still remained interesting because of the complex plot line and the whole concept of communicating with animals. I know that when I was younger, though, I would have loved Dane a lot. So yes, that is that series. If you are interested in thinking about young adult literature and sort of how it's progressed over time, I think these books are sort of older, and I think they do a really great job of childhood fiction. So yeah, I'd give them a read if you're interested in that kind of thing. And onto the book that I DNF'd. I told you were not going to like it, and that book is What Is Not Yours Is Not Yours by Helen Oyemi. I read Mr. Fox and I thought it was okay, and I think this book was okay as well, but I was really trudging through it and I realized that I simply wanted to stop, so I did. I was so excited by the premise of this book. It's a collection of linked and interconnected short stories built around the idea of keys, both in the literal and metaphorical senses. The stories promise to tease boundaries between coexisting realities and look into the idea of the key as a gate, or a gift, or an invitation. This sounded so up my alley. Keys seems like a really interesting and amazing premise for a collection of short stories, yet I didn't feel like these short stories delivered the answers to the previous questions. I didn't think that they really answered, is a key, a gate, a gift, an invitation. I thought it just presented me with a whole bunch of situations about keys. I felt that the stories were too long and rambled on, and that they were interesting characters and premises, but that they weren't explored in depth, and they didn't make me think of much of anything at all. I didn't feel like the stories were linked together in a clever or coherent way. Yes, they all had keys in them, and there was an overlapping character in two of the stories that I read, but they didn't even seem like the same person, to be honest, but they had the same name. I know this book is well beloved on BookTube, and I wanted to like it. I really did. I gave it a fair shot, I think, but I just couldn't get into it. Maybe if I had kept reading, the ending would have blown me away. I really don't know. I just think Helen Oyemi may not be the author for me. If you liked this book, if you loved this book, as I know so many people on BookTube do, I would really love to hear why. What makes it so special to you? Did it make you think about keys in the way it said it would? Maybe I just wasn't in the right mindset to read it, but anyway, that was my experience with this book. So September overall was a pretty decent reading month, and I am so excited for Victober, you guys. You can check out my TBR for Victober up above, down below. I'll link it somewhere, so if you haven't already checked that out, you should. And I'd love to know what you think of any of the books I read this month, or any of the things I discussed. And hopefully I'll be discussing a slew of Victorian literature very, very soon. So until next time, happy reading.